Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. Now, in today's episode of Random Rant, I have something that I mentioned that I would cover in a ending of a previous video that I will likely link into with an iCard, as you can see, and that being on the topic of skepticism, particularly bubble skepticism, as I've dubbed it. Now, we are all familiar with the term skepticism, that being the idea that we shouldn't buy into anything without seeing some details or proof. But when I when I refer to bubble skepticism, I mean the creation of a safe zone of ideologies or topics or answers in general that I feel that people are just choosing not to discuss. Now, a lot of skeptics out here can claim the title all day, but they have created their bubble of things that they will never be skeptical about, which is pretty hypocritical when you ask me. The idea of a skeptic, once again, is that we have to question all things as well as thoroughly investigate them before we accept anything presented with us. Now, I personally agree with that, and I think that's good because, with all you're getting, get understanding, right? And due to the fact that a lot of people are used to just going onto the internet and getting some form of information, whether it be false or true, they don't even bother to look into the details too much. They just say, okay, it came up from the internet, I'm just going to go with the first thing I see, and they just go by that. So it's really important to try and find your own information, and in today's society, I feel like that's really starting to become unheard of because most people, instead of trying to find information, they go where they can find answers, even if those answers aren't necessarily right or not, but because they don't look into it. Now, getting back to bubble skeptics, what irritates me the most about these people is the sheer hypocrisy. They pretend as if it's important to seek answers while never exploring the ones that make them feel uncomfortable, which is what they aren't doing by refusing to check these. What you're probably wondering what I mean by this. It's the basic level of a skeptic means you need to look into details no matter what it is. So the idea of a air quote skeptic developing a bubble around themselves and around like certain topics and ideologies that they will just never explore because of their perspective just really screams that you're not really a skeptic. You're just fine with being skeptical about things that you don't understand or don't agree with. Hence where your bubble and comfort zones come from. These people will never question certain topics, whether they're grand or small, just because it goes against their perspective. They fear the concept that they could be wrong, so they cling to any answer that aligns with their perspective, and that's how they develop that comfort zone. To name a few things that I'm talking about, for example, think about this. These same people that can claim to be skeptics, well, why do you feel like you can just accept what a professor or anyone with a PhD says? Not too many skeptics ever question that fact that these people with that title, professor or PhD or doctor or whatever you want to call them, could be wrong. They don't ever take into account the possibility that they could be wrong. Or, for example, how about the theory of evolution? I'm probably going to get some controversy just for that. If you're a skeptic, why are you accepting certain things? I'm not saying you can't accept, theories and whatnot. I'm saying you shouldn't have a problem with questioning them. If you're really a skeptic, then you shouldn't be afraid to question anything. But what we have nowadays is bubble skeptics, where everything in the bubble I will never question. Everything outside of the bubble I will question. Their complete ideology of questioning stuff, it just stops at that. Whatever this professor and PhD says, that's law. Whatever someone told me as a young age, I'm never going to question that now that I'm older unless it's something I don't agree with or it goes against letting me do something that I want to do. So when we look at these so-called skeptics, even like the people themselves, like the professors and PhDs, scientists, physicists, whatever you want to call them, like, do you have any idea how many like professors themselves have lost that title and gotten kicked out and lost everything simply because they chose to be skeptical about a widely accepted theory or answer? These same people, because, like, you gotta realize, like, self-proclaimed scientists are, like, some of the biggest skeptics out here, right? But if you go against a widely accepted theory, you are not allowed to be skeptical about that. And if you are a professor, prepare to lose your title because you're being skeptical. So once again, you can see that this is taking place even with people in high positions of intelligence, as they like to say. And in an age where everyone is literally trying to find a laundry list of reasons to make retarded decisions, you know, where's the questioning even amongst yourself? Like, just even asking yourself certain things, you know? I'll tell you what, it's non-existent, because your bubble, your comfort zone, your topics that you'll never explore because of your perspective or how you were raised or how you were taught, you just don't feel comfortable questioning that. That hurts you too much. The possibility you could be wrong is just too threatening, so you won't question that. Your skepticism stops, like, basically, I'd say all around you, it stops. But everything outside of your, like, immediate point of view, that's what you're fine questioning. But everything that's, like, within you, no, we're not allowed to question that. And, like, there's just this huge fear amongst these people about their bubbles being burst and, like, being wrong even though they believe they were right. Or even just being scared to think that they could be wrong. Like, no one's necessarily saying you're wrong if you're questioning yourself, but these people are so scared of that they just won't question themselves to begin with. They just want to remain comfortable in their perspectives. Now, I can understand that a lot of this likely came from brainwashing at a young age, and I get that, I really do. But as you mature, you start making decisions for yourselves. And the idea of skepticism, once again, I don't know how many times I've said this, is the importance of finding your own answers, the importance of looking at the details for yourself and trying to come up with a conclusion. Not necessarily an absolute truth, but a conclusion, right? So, the fact that people are just choosing to claim the title of a skeptic while refusing to do the things that make them uncomfortable in terms of skepticism, like questioning things that they've accepted for a very long time, it just doesn't feel right to me personally for anyone to claim that kind of a title if you're not really going to try and fully grasp what it means to be a skeptic. If you're not okay with questioning things that make you uncomfortable, then what's the point of being a skeptic? If you're only fine with questioning the things that you've developed a natural, like, okay, I'm fine with that because this is just widely accepted, so I'm just not going to question this. But some researchers telling me that I shouldn't be doing X, Y, or Z, I'm going to be skeptical about that. But this theory that was taught to me at a really young age, despite being deemed a skeptic, I will not question the theory. Which makes no sense, because there's nothing wrong with questioning it. It's not necessarily, once again, believing that the theory is wrong. It's just you want to check in on it yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Once again, I feel like the real importance, it's important to be skeptic. Okay, it's important as far as I'm concerned. What's the use in pursuing answers if you're just gonna buy into something because of someone's title? You know what I mean? What's the use in being called a skeptic when what you're doing is essentially going on the internet or going in a university and going to Mr. Professor or Mrs. Professor and just saying, what's the answer here? And taking their word as law. You know what I mean? There's nothing skeptical about that, and I personally feel like we need to get these bubbles. We need to get them out of here because they're not doing anything for anyone. If you're gonna be called a skeptic, then be skeptical, not just about the things that you disagree with, but what about the things that you do agree with? There's nothing wrong with wanting to check in on things. There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're not loyal to whatever you want to be loyal to. Doesn't mean that you think it's wrong. It's just looking into some things. That's all that it is. With that being said, I'm going to bring that topic to a close. I do hope that you guys enjoyed what I had to say there. And do tell me how you feel on the topic of skepticism, especially in our day and age. How do you feel? Are you a skeptic? Why or why not? Also, just want to let you all know that since YouTube is censoring content on its platform, if you want to see these videos, please do subscribe and hit that bell. That is the only way to receive videos in your feed. Because, YouTube might not even like the topic of skepticism these days, so I need some help, you guys. As always, rate the video what you think it deserves. Tell me what you'd like to see in the future in the comments below. And I will see all of you in the next one. Take care and wake up.